Motorsports. I'm your host Isaiah, and today we're going to continue the build for the Mirage. So let's dive in, let's see what we got. Hey, welcome back. We are doing the piston ring end gap, and we're going to be doing that for all 4 cylinders. And what we want to do is we actually want to remember and keep in mind that all piston rings are not the same. These pistons actually came with the rings, which is very common. So that means we have to go by their piston ring specification sheet. So for these specific pistons, it says, to determine the piston ring end gap for your application and proceeding tables, all bores must be converted to inches. For example, bore size is 81 millimeter and ours is 81 millimeter. So we're actually going to use this table to convert the end gap. And it says to find the top end ring end gap for street application, 81 millimeter converted into 25.4 equals 3.189 inches. So 3.189 times 0.005 equals 16 thousandths, more or less. So 0.016. That's our minimum allowable clearance for the piston rings. So it says hundredth, but over here it says measuring proceedings for the piston ring end gap, high street performance. That's what we're doing, and we're shooting for 500 horsepower. So you want to keep that in mind when you start doing this process, because the higher the power, the tighter the clearance ends up being at high PSI. So you want to gap it further. So at your, let's say, 30 PSI, it doesn't look like it's butting up and about to blow up your motor. So for our application, a little 500 horsepower, of course we're not going to do the minimum. We might do something around the 18 thousandths or maybe 20, somewhere around there. And then for the second ring, which is the oil ring at the next shelf, that has to be 0.004 to 0.008 bigger. So for instance, if we went 20 thou on the top ring, we would have to go 24 as a minimum, all the way to 28 on the bottom ring as a maximum to be within specification. So I'm thinking on mine, I'll probably do 18 thou, maybe 19 or so. And then on the oil ring, I'll do roughly about, I'll probably end up doing 0.006 right between the two. Good rule of thumb. We'll probably go from there. So, so we got the piston rings here, come in a box, made in the best place ever. So let's open these up, and I'm going to show you how to determine top ring from bottom ring right here. All right, so this is the oil ring. This goes all the way on the base. This does not require any clearancing. Okay. Then this is the oil ring above these rings. So basically where these sit is where oil is distributed to the cylinder walls. And then this goes above that to make sure it doesn't go past the piston ring from the bottom. Then this is the top ring. The top ring goes up top, and this is for the compression. Okay? And then when you're clearancing them, you're clearancing this gap between. So in order to check this gap, you have to enter it in the bore. And then once you enter it in the bore, you have to square it out with said piston, just like that. Make sure it's square to the top bore as possible, and then you start measuring with your feeler gauge. So on the feeler gauge, they have numbers. Okay, there we go. See? 008, 0010, or excuse me, 010, 012, and so on and so forth. So you're going to use these to get the desired number you want. Here's mine a little dirty, but this is 16, this is 18 right here. So I'm going to probably go for this guy on the clearance, and you see how thin that is between the piston rings. So when it closes under high boost, it's up to that amount. Nothing that your naked eye would ever see, but it's very important to gap the rings properly to make sure that it's in the right specification. So with that being said, let's get started. So we're going to go for the top ring first. Put this aside. Don't lose them, don't step on them, don't do any of that. And then to make sure you're looking at the right side, okay, it has the N right here for north, sticks up. That means it goes into the bore this way. Give me a second, there we go. Okay, so it's in the bore, right? Now we have to make sure it's evenly in the bore, and you use that with the piston. Perfect. Now we take our feeler gauge and put it between, and it doesn't fit. So let's see what it is, and then we'll see what it needs to be. So let's start from 10. So 10 fits, good. Go to 12. 12 fits, good. Let's go to 13. Make sure it's not stuck together. 13 fits, a little snug. So let's go to 14. Yep, that's a little tight. So let's go to 15. And it doesn't go in at all. So that basically means I'm going to bring the camera closer so you can see exactly what this gap is looking like. Alrighty. So if you look there, you can barely see it with the naked eye, but that clearance matters. So make sure you're set up straight so you can get a good view. Okay, right about there, perfect. Alrighty, and boom, so we got to clearance the piston ring. So we're going to get to it and take it from there. Okay, remember north. And also, when you are about to put in the piston, like for final assembly, you want to make sure you lubricate these walls. We'll get to that once we get to it, but what we're going to do is we're going to clearance these, and then we're going to take it from there. And after you remove a little bit of material on both ends, you come back with the feeler gauge and see what the gaps are. And you keep doing this over and over and over again until you get the desired measurement. So as you can imagine, this would take a nice bit of time. So I'm gonna knock this out. I got 8 more rings to do, or 7, excuse me, 7 more rings to do. And this one is dead set on 18 thousandths, or 1800th, either way. This one is set and ready to go. And next we're gonna do the oil ring, which we're gonna clear that out a little bit deeper. So next we're gonna do the oil ring. The oil ring is going to be 24, which is 6 more steps up from this. And boom, this will be done. So let me jump on the rest of these cylinders and we'll knock it out. Also, a little FYI, which is very important, you want to put what cylinder you did the measurements on and label it. We did cylinder number 2, so we'll put 2 here, and the piston, whichever one we pick because they're all balanced, will go to the corresponding cylinder to make sure that the measurements are dead accurate. So we're gonna mark this number 2. Okay, so we are here at the luxury couch. This is actually going to be a garage couch, so no big deal. So basically we're going to put on the rings, the oil rings, the oil keeper rings, and the top ring. So we're gonna start with the oil ring. It's 3 pieces. All of them have a C. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put that here, here, and here. That's the first one. Then the oil ring on the second set, which is the oil ring and the top ring, we're gonna put the oil ring facing over here and the compression ring facing here. So let's start. Gonna have this south. Just gonna hold that. All right, that is in. Next oil ring, that's the top right there. That's how you do it without a ring compressor. And then we're gonna clock this a little bit more better once I get the top ring on there. All right, there's our top with the letter. Alrighty. Alright. So, that's all of them. And we're going to clock these and they will be ready to put in the bore. So for the base that has the 3 rings, you're going to do here, here, here. For the oil ring, which is on the second, you're going to put that here. For the top ring, you're going to put that over here. So I'll clock this and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so here we have our piston ring compressor, 81 millimeter. And then you see it's converted into inches right there. That kind of makes things a little bit easier. But, so basically this is tapered. So it has a thick side and a thin side. And the piston goes in like so. And you don't need a spring compressor that you have to ratchet. It's already machined that way and it works perfectly. So we're going to be using this. And we're going to take our piston number 1. Because we assembled all of the piston rings, clocked them perfectly, and we're going to disassemble the bottom end. Okay, and we're going to install the main bearings, and we're going to lubricate the main bearings. Okay, now this will be a little bit hard to take off because it is machine perfect, so feel free to pull it, but make sure you don't use any metal on any of these surfaces here to get it loose. Okay, so I'm going to get this apart. We're going to start sliding in the bearings and we will be good to go. Okay, so we have the rod bearings here, and these are actually Honda bearings, but everything is exactly the same, and these are actually nice and thin. So they're not too wide or anything like that. And they work perfect. So we're going to sit these over here. And we're going to start adding in the bearings. These have no top and bottom like the main bearings. So the way you fit it in is the way you get it in. So we're going to take this one here. Line up the piece right here. And boom, make sure you lock it in just the same way you did on the main bearings. Make sure nothing's catching your finger. If it is, adjust. Perfect. All right, we got a little bit over here. All right. So that's excellent. Make sure she's sitting proper. Okay. Yep, perfect. So that is one bearing. Then we're going to put the other bearing on this side. There we go, so you can see a little bit better. Alright, so we're going to put in the other bearing and install the rod. Okay, so both bearings are in. And both of these go together, so you can never mess it up. Boom, goes like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to lubricate the cylinder with oil and slide in the piston. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. I'm going to lube these up and we'll be good to go. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to lubricate these bottom bearings. And then we're going to slide the piston into the sleeve and assemble. It's going to come out really nice. So let me get everything set up and I will be right back. Okay, so everything is in the sleeve like it's supposed to be. And what we're going to do is pretty much push it down. Okay. Nice and slow, a little bit of force. Basically, you want to keep some pressure down on this as you push the piston down. And then, before you know it, it's in. Boom. That's simple. Okay, and the piston is all the way in. We lubricated the cylinder. We're going to add some lubricant to this one. And we're going to put it on accordingly back there. And we're going to hand tighten it for now, because once all of these are put in, I'm actually going to torque them down to specification. Okay, lubricant is put on there. And now we're going to just twist this in from the bottom. And we're going to do this each cylinder. So remember to lubricate each one. Put on your assembly lube. And use your ring to get the cylinder down in the bore. And you can lubricate your ring too. It will help it glide. Just a little something. You can even use WD-40. Just something of lubricant works very well. And yep, just pop them in. And that is it. Okay, and last thing you want to make sure is you put your pistons in properly so the big valve is on the intake side, which is the back. This is the front. So have that towards the back. And then your small valves towards the exhaust side, which is the front. Okay. So let me grab my torque bar and we're going to torque it down. Okay, so the reason we didn't use any torque on these and did them hand tight is because we're going to put some moly lube on it just as we did these. So I could take these loose one at a time so the connecting rod doesn't fall out, put the moly lube in there, and we're going to go up to 43 foot-pounds of torque in 3 sequences, just the same way we did the sequence on these, but we're going to go top to bottom and get it all torqued down. These torque specifications is with moly lube, not without, so make sure you add it. So I'm going to take these out, add the moly lube, and then start the torque sequence. And this is the ending result. I'm going to turn it over by hand. Everything is torqued down to the specifications. And let's check it out. Beautiful. And with that being said, we are done with this episode. I am definitely going to continue to build this engine, so make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be good. I'm also looking for a couple of items for the car itself, and that would be the JDM trunk and rear bumper. So hopefully we can kind of get that together, and then the car itself will be ready for paint. So the sooner we get those parts, the sooner we can get her in the paint booth. But until then, I'll see you guys next episode. Thank you for joining me. If you're new here, definitely like this type of content, then definitely consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon, and I'll see you guys next episode.